questions. Can you share your thoughts on the frequency of coaching sessions, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, that would align best with your needs or the needs of the people that you've served?
Oh, that's an interesting question because one of the things I'm looking at doing, and I'm kind of pondering that very question right now, is setting up a mastermind for water system operators. There's a lot of technical training out there, but there's not as much in the way of actual management training. We're trying to get around that, and so what I'd really looked at is twice monthly for a mastermind format. Now this is looking specifically at a mastermind type format, but have set it up so that you do twice monthly, and then you have some other things that go on too. So there's probably something happening every week in the mastermind, but you're getting together the mastermind group maybe once a month. You're doing some individual sessions once a month, and then some other training, group training. So I would say 2 to 4 times a month is probably good for an ongoing training situation.
Hmm.
That you you don't want to get it too much, and you want to keep it engaging, but you don't want to do it so infrequently that people forget about it too. So a minimum of once a month, but I really think twice a month is probably ideal for something like that. Every week might be a bit too much for most people because we get busy, and you can't necessarily do something every single week. So I would almost say, ideally to me, in looking at this, is that twice a month would be good. Now, the problem with twice a month, that's every other week, and you're going to have to remind people a lot because weekly, you can kind of put it on your calendar. Twice a month, you can put it on your calendar, but people kind of forget the twice a month thing. So there's some pros and cons to that, but I think attendance, from what I've seen with the weekly stuff, attendance starts to tail off with people that can't make every session. And so, do you need everybody there or not? There's a lot of things that kind of dictate that. If you're doing more of a training type of thing where um, there are, I would say every week then is probably good if people can just tune in and watch the video recording if they need to and engage if they need to, then that works as well. But if you're doing something intensive like a mastermind, probably twice a month would probably be a sweet spot, I think, from looking at this.
Right. So I want to ask you a question so I can distinguish those two, because you brought up a point that I was going to bring up just from my own personal experience, but you brought up the weakness of every second week because, people like routines. And now your schedule is it this week? Is it next week? Is it the 5th of the month? Or is it next week? Because, there's 5 weeks. So that can get a little
Right.
messed up and harm your attendance and their habit formation. So when you're talking about, you specifically said, twice a month is what you think is optimal for your own clientele and their needs. When you were talking about weekly training, are you talking about sort of training newbies or something like that? Because you were saying once a week would be better for something. What was it exactly that you thought weekly would be best for?
Well, I think it would be for like newbie training or kind of training where you're getting up there and doing a traditional training type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you sign up for a program that's every week and you get an hour of training,
Mm-hmm.
once a week. And I think that allows people to get into a routine and
Mm-hmm.
it's still not overwhelming because it's 1 hour.
Mm-hmm.
The trick is, what hour is that?
Mm-hmm.
Are Tuesdays better than Thursdays? Are afternoons better than morning? Should you do evenings, or really early morning? It makes a difference, not only, how often you do it per month, but what day of the week you do it and what time of the day you do it. So those are all important considerations, and it can, it's hard to get your mind around it sometimes too, because not every day and every hour and every schedule is going to be ideal for everybody. You're just not going to be able to do it. So, and it seems like, to me, like Thursdays are the day for me where everything happens on a Thursday. So it's kind of like,
Mhm.
and then, I see a training I want to do, and it'll be exactly the same time I'm doing my live YouTube show. So it's kind of like, and it's amazing how often you get conflict. So, but Monday morning, first thing, probably not ideal. Friday
Mhm.
afternoon, not ideal.
Mhm.
So, what day of the week? Wednesday, hump day, maybe. Tuesdays and Thursdays seem to be kind of when a lot of people do things. I don't know if there's any science to that or not. So I'm kind of looking at that right now and seeing what is ideal for training. I'm not even opposed to doing evening stuff, but then you run into dinner hours and different time zones. I mean, there's really a lot of stuff to take into consideration to be able to reach out to people. And it turns out that the time slots that you figure out are the same time slots everybody else figures out. So everybody's doing all their training on the same day and time.
Yeah, I hear
So,
you there. Totally the case. And I'm really glad you brought up the idea of days and times, because yeah, it probably is. Even just sort of my email list shows this. Generally speaking, between Tuesday and Thursday, Monday and Friday are pretty much widely known as not being ideal. But let's use the example of the time it is where I am right now. It's 2:30 a.m. Tuesday morning. So there is no such thing unless you're working in a very specific regional, you're US, most of my clients are North American. So we're dealing with a 4-hour range minimum, but in the real world, soon as you go online, now you're dealing with different days and times. That's not a small issue because it's not natural. Us as human beings don't think in those terms. So you're right. It's very intriguing. Maybe you and I should do some brainstorming on if I can help you on yours. And also that would be super valuable to anybody, not just your audience and your clients, but everybody, as a way to sort of pull attention to what you do, is to say, I've looked into this. I've done the experiment. This is how I did that experiment because it really matters who your audience is, right? Is it
yeah.
international? Are they professional? Are they vampires like me and actually like being up when everybody's asleep? You can't, there may be no simple answer, but you brought a lot of sort of insight into the frequency and the frequency, how that interacts with the specific type of training. If we're starting from zero, then the consistency of weekly might be more desirable, but ongoing, they know it's okay. And especially if you have like a bulletin board or a Google form where they can drop the questions the moment they have them, because that's a significant concern for me with my students or anybody, is like, you can reach out to me anytime. That doesn't mean I'll get back to you immediately, but don't wait until the class or the conference or the mastermind group itself to document that. There's an old Chinese saying, the faintest ink is better than the most powerful memory. And it's true. Just, if you give them that and you consider carefully asking your audience, what is the best time to do it? You're never going to get everybody happy, but at least that's going to maximize that attendance and engagement, plus giving them an asynchronous path to bring topics up as they come up in their mind, because everybody's too busy. One more thing to write down is just one more thing. Write it down, get it out of your mind. That's super powerful. Okay, so the next one.
Yeah, that's I was just going to say that. Yeah, I mainly deal with U.S. and
Mm-hmm.
so you got mainly four time zones to consider if you don't take into account Alaska and Hawaii. But that's challenging enough. I just can't even
Mm-hmm.
imagine how you do it internationally. I mean, because it's you get some weird hours, and it's but getting everybody on the same page just through four time zones is challenging enough. So
You
it,
said it.
it's tough. It's tough.
Well, mostly I just rely on Calendly. And today, I'm ashamed to say it, I thought I had solved it, but clearly I've still got some work to do. I completely missed Zoom. another one of these because it was in an unusual time. I had my earphones out, so I didn't hear the alert. So now I've realized what I have to do is daily check my schedule, set alarms on my phone as well as my calendar reminders is the closest I can come to being perfect, short of hiring a full-time assistant. That's not yet an option, but that's where I definitely want to go for exactly that reason. Add in the time zones and everything else. There's no way I can serve everybody who's my client, but I can do my darndest. And I normally am going to bed at 8 or 9 in the morning. My schedule goes from 9 a.m. to ideally when I wake up, which is part of the neuroscience of making the best of your brain. But mostly that's the case. But right now I still have 2 days a week that it gets compromised. One is my current in-country employment, which is necessary for my visa. And that's like Saturday at 4 p.m., but that means they have to wake up at 2. So for me, that's like, that's like you waking probably up at, not at 6 a.m., but you waking up at 3 a.m. when you're normally waking up at 6 or 7 or 8 a.m., right? So that throws me off, and that's why it's going to go bye-bye as soon as I can make it. Let's talk about the next one. What time